kind of get started with the standard slide, right? There may or may not be things that we may or may not show that may or may not be available in the software that's currently released. And so we'll try to identify those. We're going to take a practical approach to this and really show you what we have implemented, what we've been able to accomplish with the tool, and how we're moving that forward. A couple of quick slides on Basic Energy. We're about a $500 million oil services company, about half of what we were a few years ago, as everybody has went through that. But we service a lot of different sectors of the market. So we do a lot of the water hauling, water logistics, as well as well services, completion and remedial. And so we really participate in all aspects of the oilfield services business. As you would think, we participate in all of the key regions of the oilfield industry or the oilfield areas, Permian being our largest sector within Basic Energy. So we do about 50% of our business within the Permian region. Gulf Coast is pretty large, as well as Central and the Rocky Mountains. So nothing out of the ordinary here. As we get into why we selected or why we were looking for a system like FieldFX, we really needed a field operations management system. We really had nothing. And we're running roughly 2,000 trucks as we talk about water, as we talk about well services and rigs. And so that's a lot of logistical information to maintain. And our guys were doing Post-it notes. We had paper tickets. They would lose those tickets. Those tickets would fall in the mud. We didn't have access to the disposal tickets. All of those things that everybody's seeing from an oilfield services perspective, pretty standard stuff. Our field guys were having to know lease and well names to get on the ticket so they could get it back to our office staff so they could get that in the system and get that approved and invoiced. So a pretty standard set of problems that we had as it related to the oilfield service industry. As we looked at FieldFX, we were really trying to do a couple of different things. Standardize our data and workflow within the process. We have over 100 yards. Out of those yards, we probably had 150 different ways that we went about doing business on a daily basis. Even though we had SAP as our back office system, all of the front office or the field operations side was pretty disjointed. Not a lot of the same processes, not a lot of the same people. The dispatching was different. Some folks dispatched on Post-it notes, some folks dispatched across the phone, some folks dispatched across the walkie-talkie. So a lot of different ways to do a lot of different things. So we were really looking at FieldFX to help us standardize that data and the workflow itself. The efficiencies we gained have been pretty significant. We're currently rolled out in our Permian region, but we're able to dispatch trucks from out of one yard to another yard. So if we have people out sick, vacation, whatever it may be, I can dispatch trucks from one yard to another yard without moving people around. So it's the same process, the same employees, and the same trucks. And so that's been a huge benefit for us as we move forward. The analytics capability, today we have real-time information, where previously we didn't have access to the ticket information for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So we didn't know what went on from Friday, we didn't know what went on Monday. And so that was a big issue for our operations managers because they didn't really have a clue where their revenue was. And as you know, as we're talking specifically about water logistics, revenue is a big thing. The margins are small and we've got to stay on top of that. So we're able to make business decisions on the fly with the information that's available to us, and the cost savings have been pretty significant from the beginning of this thing. So as we've created those efficiencies, we've created that information that we can give to our yard managers that's in turn resulted in a significant amount of cost savings as we look at these yards. One of the other things we really tried to do with the process was keep it simple, right? And so we got a pretty little picture here, but this is really the entire process from beginning to end, from our service requests from our customers all the way through the invoicing process. And FieldFX has really become a significant player in our field operations management. It is our single biggest piece of software, so everybody knows how big SAP is and what a big deal that is to implement. We've got more users in FieldFX at this point than we do in the SAP system. However, we do use our SAP system as really the backbone, our system of record, our accounting system, and everything comes out of there. So we've tightly integrated FieldFX with SAP. All of our master data moves up from SAP to FieldFX via the Boomi integration tool. All of our work tickets come down from FieldFX into SAP, and they're managed via workflow statuses that is going to talk about here in a little bit. But those things are tightly tied together, so we really can't get out of sync. So FieldFX really works as a second skin on top of our SAP platform. And that has really allowed us to move this out into the operation. The mobility aspects of FieldFX are significant. As if we would have went with SAP, as folks know, there's a mobile integration component, servers, hardware, all this stuff we have to stand up, all this stuff we have to manage. With FieldFX, it was pretty simple, right? We got the tablets. The tablet management, which we will talk a little bit about as well, is a significant piece of what you need to do, but it is much, much easier with FieldFX and Salesforce to move this forward. So a lot of the benefits of FieldFX were mobility, the SaaS solution, so we don't have to manage that solution either. So it's on the Salesforce platform, makes things very, very simple for our infrastructure team. And really, all of those things combined made it the right choice for us. Current project status, we are been live on FieldFX since December of 16. It feels like maybe a little longer, but it's December of 16. It's when we got up and going. And we've really focused on our water logistics unit, which is probably 60% of all of our work tickets to get processed from a basic energy standpoint. We've processed close to 150,000 tickets in that time frame. We've got about 13, 14 yards up and live completely with our water logistics unit, and we're looking at rolling out into our Gulf Coast and central regions. So we should have anywhere between 900 and 1,000 users by end of this year, assuming things go well. So we're moving forward. We're also looking at bringing our well service units in, and so it's a little bit different process, but at the end of the day, it's really the same information, same customers, similar type services, and we'll be able to bring those ones starting probably in the June, July timeframe. So we're pretty excited about that as well. With that, I want to hand it off to the smart people in the room and let them explain to you a little bit of what we've done, how we've been successful, and some of the benefits of the operational side of FieldFX. So with that, I'll give it to Uma.
Okay, now we get to the exciting part, which is the demo of what we have. Well, we're glad we have this opportunity to showcase what BASIC has done with FieldFX and how we've leveraged FieldFX and made it a success. Right, so we're going to, so before we start the demo, we're going to just make a disclaimer that everything is on our test and sandbox system. So it's not our production system. So what you see is just test data. Okay, we're just going to wait for the, okay, so what you see up here is our schedule and dispatch board. And as the name says, we use it for planning, scheduling, and dispatch. Our dispatchers are on this board pretty much the whole day, and it enables operational efficiency for our dispatchers. So really quick, what they love about this tool is one is ease of use of the tool. It's really simple, it's very easy for them to use, and the second is drag and drop functionality, right? So for example, now we're just going to drag a driver and drop them at a job. So we have the driver paired with the truck. We pair them if they have a truck assigned to them, and you'll see that it populates automatically. So it's as simple as that. It's just boom, drag and drop. And we can create a new ticket from that spot. So everything is done on the dispatch board. Okay, so the other thing that they love about the tool, and this was something the dispatchers requested for us when we did our brainstorming sessions with them, they wanted a color coding. They wanted it to be visual, right? So we came up with these colors. So the orange is our tickets that have not been sent to the driver yet. Blue are completed tickets, and green are the ones in progress right now, and the red are canceled work orders. So what you see on the left are really all jobs and work orders that have been assigned, and they can plan it out for the day, for the week, for the month. And at the lower half of the screen, You see our contacts, which are really our drivers. You get to see what their schedule is for the day. And on the right are our trucks. So one thing to mention is all our assets, equipment, so pretty much our trucks and our contacts, which are our drivers, are managed in SAP and then integrated. And we'll talk about integration later in the process. But so this is...
And that's a real-time scheduling. The dispatchers know at any given time exactly what's going on, the status of all the work tickets for the day. From a visual perspective, it makes it very, very easy for our yards that have 80, 90, 100 trucks in them to manage those yards.
Yeah, so we have these 46-inch monitors in our dispatch areas in every yard. So a manager can walk in and just a visual of the screen shows him how the day is going, right? So early in the day, it's going to be more orange and green. Towards the end of the day, more blue. You can see some reds for canceled work orders, but that's a really good visual. And our big yards are 80+ trucks, and this is really easy for them. So if we have 3 or 4 dispatchers, each of them have a 46-inch monitor that anyone can walk in and see. And what we've seen, which has really helped us is, as John mentioned, if a dispatcher calls in sick, a dispatcher doesn't want to show up for work anymore, totally fine. Another dispatcher from another yard steps in. We don't lose any jobs. The drivers continue getting their tickets. So that's pretty seamless, and that's helped us, and it's a huge win for us on our end. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at is a quick snapshot of the back office. So we're going to talk about our ticket status workflow. So this is pretty much our back office management system on the ticket. We've gone through multiple iterations on this. We didn't start off with all these statuses, but we've worked with the users and come up with the best statuses and it's standardized across all yards. So everybody in BASIC who follows this ticket process has these ticket statuses. So the workflow, we start with in progress. That's when the driver gets the ticket and is working on the ticket. It moves to complete from field. So when he's done, he presses complete from field, syncs back to the back office. That goes into staff review. So the dispatcher and the staff look at it, make sure that the key fields are filled and everything is good to go. Then moves to supervisor review. The supervisor mostly looks at pricing because we have our price books, but as you all know, price is really volatile and keeps changing. So supervisor checks it and then clicks on waiting on customer approval. So that is a really important status because it moves to the customer at that point. And we are still printing tickets, so we go get a signature, but at that point it's going to be on waiting on customer approval. And then it could be approved or rejected by the customer. If it's approved, it's ready for invoicing. Our invoicing is done in SAP. And if it's rejected, it goes back to staff review. So this is our ticket status workflow. And what this has done is standardized data across all yards. So our audit team, everyone sat down and come up with this flow, and this works great for us. And it's given us pretty much an end-to-end, right, from where the customer request comes in up until invoicing. It's really standard. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is our ticket transition tab. So about a week into go live, we get a call from the users saying we have a problem. Of course, most of the time that is what they say when they call, but this time it was a genuine problem. They said, you know what, we're having to go in to every ticket and transition the status. So we're talking 100+ tickets in a yard, and every staff had to go in, transition it multiple times in a day, and it was ticket by ticket. So we called Merrick, our implementation manager in Liquid Frameworks, told him the problem, and this is what they came up with, right? And this has been a huge win, saves a lot of time, and has created efficiency at the yards. So all this is you can put in, you can put in your yard, you can put in the ticket type, and right here we're going to check status of waiting on customer approval or supervisor review, and we go ahead and once you execute, so you can put in anything. You can put in the customer number, the AFE number, different selections, and it brings up the list of tickets. So it's pretty simple. If you want to see a quick overview of the ticket, click on the green button, you see all the line items, right? So they don't have to click into every ticket and go in. And if they want to transition one ticket, click on one. or transition 10, then they can go ahead and click on everything. Or if they want to do 50 or say 100, they can go ahead and do it. So this has saved us a lot of time because we do have customers who don't need a signature, so then it's really simple. They can transition 1,000 tickets at one time for that day.
And this functionality is available for a small royalty.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is ticket printing. So again, very similar problem, went live. We didn't anticipate that this would be an issue. We thought we had all our ducks lined up, everything's good. But in the real world, they started having problems because they had to go to every ticket, click print, and it was too much to do. So they were having to print probably 100 tickets, and every time click on print. So they got back to us, and again, Merrick helped us with this and gave us this screen. So if you look at it, it's exactly like our ticket transition screen. The reason why we've kept everything standard is we want to give a really good and consistent user experience. So they know how every screen looks, they know what the filter criteria is, and they put that in. So you can put in a yard, and we're looking at a status of, say, waiting on customer approval. We execute that, and it's going to bring up a list of tickets in that status for that yard. Right, so the same thing, you want to have a quick overview of those tickets. You can just look at the line items. You can minimize that. If you want to see how that ticket would look before it's printed, you can click on print selected. Okay. This is our ticket, and this is how it looks if it goes to the customer when printed for signature. So if not, they can go in there and mass print. So again, created a lot of efficiency and saved time in the yards. So our staff are really jazzed about both the ticket transition and print tickets. So we're still having to go to customers and get signatures on the tickets. We're hoping that with electronic approvals, we will minimize the use of this application, but for now, we use it extensively. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to touch upon is master data integration. So as John mentioned, our ERP system is SAP, and before we went live, we took our time to go live because we made a conscious decision that we wanted to be 100% integrated with SAP. It was tough. We had a lot of roadblocks. We had to build stuff in SAP, make sure FieldFX matched it, but we're glad we made that decision because today, looking back, that's the best thing we've done project-wise. So now everything's consistent, in line with SAP, and we don't have to keep checking back and forth. So the master data that we move from SAP to FX, so Dell Boomi is our integration tool, and we move customer data, yard information, driver information, so personnel data, assets, equipment, truck information, all of that is moved from SAP. Changes are not made in FX. Any change, we have a process that moves it back from SAP to FX. And so that way, say a billing address of a customer cannot be different between FX and SAP. So we do our invoicing in SAP, so it is really important that we keep all information consistent in FX. So that's worked out great for us with integration. And Boomi has also been really easy to use. We've been, after being in SAP all these years, we were amazed that both FieldFX, Salesforce, and Boomi could be this easy. So we questioned it many times with our implementation team, but it's worked out, and it's really easy to use compared to a traditional ERP system. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is our customer portal. So this is what we've built where the customers can log in. We're hoping to get a customer on quick. We've been trying to market this. And
this is all in Lightning as well. So it looks and feels a little different than the standard FieldFX.
Yeah. And we have showed this to a few customers, and of course we've got the oohs and ahs, and we're just waiting for them to log in at some point. But what you see up here is we have, what they could do is they can put in a service request. So they don't have to call our supervisors, they don't have to call anyone. If it's a call-in and not a scheduled job, they can put in a service request up here, and that'll come in to our dispatcher's screen. The dispatcher has the ability to either accept or decline. If they decline that job, they'll have to put in a reason on why they decline. And it'll come back to the customer portal as a status of is it submitted, is it accepted, is it declined, right? And all the details will be in there. We have a functionality that Merrick's been working on where it converts a service request directly into a job. So that way we don't have, it's a click of a button and it switches over to a job and goes onto our dispatch board. The next thing we have is ticket approvals, because this is one of the main reasons we wanted the customer portal, for electronic approval of tickets. So pretty simple screen. They go in here. They can put in information or do an open search. Brings up a list of tickets. So the same thing. If they want to see a quick snapshot of the ticket, they click on that green plus button and they see the details with the pricing, all of that. So before they approve, if they want to see how that printed ticket would look, because now it's electronic, they don't have the printed ticket with them, they can just go in and look at that ticket. So this is exactly how the printed ticket would look. So if they want to approve one ticket, they can go ahead and click on a single ticket and approve, or so it's approve or reject. If they put in a rejection, they would have to put in a reason of why it's being rejected. And it'll come back. So the way we have our status is, as soon as it's rejected here, it'll come back as a customer rejected on our ticket. And then staff will pick it up to review again. Or they can mass approve based on whatever search they put in. So that's it on the ticket approval page. The next is we have our dashboards for customers. Again, customizable. We don't have a customer yet on the portal, but when they do log in, we can customize dashboards based on what they want to look at. We just wait for the dashboards to come. So something simple we've created now to just give them metrics of the work that's being done by us. Okay. So now we're going to move to our dashboards and reporting, right? So this was the first time we were able to give real-time operational information to our operations people. So until now, we have our reporting in SAP, but it's not real-time because the paper tickets are still on the desk of a staff assistant. They've gone on vacation, so we have no clue what's happening. But right now, it's real-time information, and our operations folks really dig the dashboards, and they love that they can see everything. They come in the morning, so on a region basis, they can look at all yards, and if it's a yard operation manager, he can look at his yard and see how it's performing. So of course, they use the dashboards most, I would say the third week of the month or the fourth week. The first and second, they don't look at it much, but it's helped. And for us, in corporate and in the upper management, they can just log in and see it. They don't have to call yards. They don't have to call the region. They see what's going on just by logging into the system. So this has been a huge win for us, and we weren't able to establish this earlier, so we're really happy with the dashboard piece.
And the statuses really are what drive the work process itself. So at any given point, we can see where those tickets are sitting, whether they're waiting on supervisor approval, waiting on customer approval, and we can see the aging behind those. And so, the management team knows who to go get after, if you will. So the revenue's not sitting out there dead.
Yeah, and we've spoken about DSO all these years, but now we've come to realize that really the DSO is enhanced more so, because when they say, yes, the ticket has gone out for approval, it may have gone, may not have gone, it's still at the desk. So we're seeing those kind of things, and that's being brought to light now, and we're seeing exactly where those blocks are and bottlenecks are in that DSO of 10 day or 20 days. So that's pretty cool for us to see. So next thing we're going to look at is the sales activity management, or what we call SAM or CRM Lite. So once we were done with, we have 12 yards live with FieldFX, we had a little bit of time to pull this together with the help of Liquid Framework. So this is on Lightning, and this is for our sales team. It's really simple. We use it for logging a call. They can log their activities, their leads, tasks, events, new contacts, new accounts. So pretty simple. Whatever they were, keeping on their books or whatever they were writing down, now they log it in SAM. So it's they like it, and we've also created win-miss reports for them. So they log their wins, their misses, and so this is really cool functionality that we were able to give our sales team. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is our tablets and management. Of course, it is the core of the entire process and really important. And it's more an infrastructure piece. And what we've done on the tablets is we've ensured that it's easy to use for the drivers. They hardly put in any information except for description of the service. That's the only thing they type in. Everything else is a pick list or a drop down. So it's pretty simple to train and easy to use. We have some yards once they're live. New drivers join, 1 day of training, and they get right on. So it's as simple as that. And we've put together a process to manage and procure hardware. So that's pretty much everything from tablets to the cases for the tablets to the charging stations. So depending on the number of tablets, we buy bigger charging stations or smaller ones and send it. We also have these monitors for dispatchers. So we have a process that manages all of that. Another key part of the tablet management is user provisioning and identity management. So we've locked down the tablet for use of any other application. So all they can access is FieldFX Mobile. So we don't have drivers playing Candy Crush, anything. So they just have to log in, and all that comes up is FieldFX Mobile. So it's pretty simple. And in summary, I think what we abide by in BASIC and what has been mirrored by Liquid Frameworks for us is really we keep it simple, the ease of use, and a good user experience. So we've been able to do away with all those, the whiteboards, the sticky notes, the 5 subject notebooks that they used to buy, so all of that. So it's pretty much online, and I think going on 1+ years now, and the drivers don't want to go back to paper. If at all we ask them to switch, we don't hear the end of it that day. So that's pretty good.
And our next regions are actually pulling the software as opposed to us pushing it. So we don't have to argue with folks near as much as we used to. So really, lessons learned. It's really what Trent talked to earlier: executive management support, change management support, and then project management. Obviously, those things are the key to any ERP level project that you're going to see. Without that executive management support, you're not going to get far. And with that quality project management support, you won't get anywhere. The working relationship we have with Liquid Frameworks has helped us be successful with this, and without that, we would not have got there. So thanks to everyone for that. And with that, if there's any questions, we can make up some answers.
I've got the mic and I can walk around.
I'd like to ask a question. Do you have any feedback coming back from SAP through your integration into your tickets and your reports with sales order numbers, invoice numbers, which will then assist you with your DSO times?
Oh, yes. Yes, we do have. So it's data that goes both ways. So we move our master data from SAP back into FX, but from FX, all our tickets move. So when it's on a status of waiting on customer approval, moves to SAP. A second time, it moves when it's ready for invoicing. And and once it's invoiced, it moves back into FX and puts the invoice number. So that way, both are in sync. So all our reports are pretty much, so the one piece we don't have is really the tax, which we're working on from SAP back to FX. So that's a little more complicated, and that's in the works right now.
But within SAP, you can search on the FieldFX ticket number or vice versa. And so those two things are tied that tightly.
So, the ticket number.
Yeah.
So that's the T, right? So not the tracking number, but the ticket. So we've, so both systems you can search either way, with the SAP ticket number or the FieldFX ticket number.
Would y'all mind speaking to some of the metrics y'all watch to demonstrate the success?
Oh, that's a tougher question, right? So we have all these savings numbers and all these efficiencies that we've created. Trying to put a number to them gets to be difficult. And so what we're really watching, a lot of that is our days to get tickets approved from a customer standpoint, the days that our supervisors sit on those tickets before they move to customer approval. Those types of things are readily available, easy to see. I think some of the anecdotal evidence is as dispatchers leave, we can dispatch out of another yard, and so we don't lose time. And so those efficiencies, the operations folks are seeing, but it's really hard to put a quantifiable number on it to take up to the CEO and say, this is what it's doing for us, other than being able to get those reports out of the field. And so those are always tough, right, with any type of system.
I think it's hard to quantify. The first time 3 years ago, we went out to New Mexico and walked through a trailer, and you had to walk this way, and they had a lot of people in one trailer, and they couldn't really take in additional business because you can't fit any more people in there to do these types of things. And Travis went with us on that one, and he would just say, what's this stack of paper, and what's on the wall there? And I mean, it's all changing. And so I don't know how you quantify, maybe you can look at the growth since then, but you literally couldn't take on more business as a result of that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
That's
we
true.
have 500 plus tablets on the field and 100 plus tickets every day per yard. So it's pretty significant.
One of the challenges that most people expect is a really big challenge with the types of drivers that you're dealing with and getting technology. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that experience of getting those drivers in.
Well, and that was one of the issues we thought we would have, is with the drivers and the tablets and the technology and getting folks to do this. And the drivers, and Adrian can attest to that, the drivers have picked up on this. They pick up on it a day or two, and they don't want to go back to paper. They don't want to change what they're doing with FieldFX at this point, because the job has become so much easier. Basically, they're entering water, barrels, water volumes, and maybe color cut, and that's it. Because all the other information gets passed to them from a work ticket standpoint, so they don't have to worry about the well, the lease, any of that information anymore. It is really 4 or 5 fields they input, and they're done.
Did you say you use paper tickets, print the tickets off all your client customers aside, rather than using a digital signature?
Yeah, and so with water, right, there's nobody ever at the site, and so there's nobody there to sign via the mobile device, and so that process has stayed antiquated, if you will, and we're looking at doing some things. So, as Travis was talking about, that type of hub where operators can go in and approve your tickets is a great thing. We've been working with Malto and Oildex to do something very similar. As most people know, Oildex has an OI system that they're trying to get all of their operators to force a lot of our service providers to start using. So we're working on a project to get that implemented as well.
We've had a lot of kickback from our clients that don't sign the digital copies.
Yeah.
They want printed, they want to copy, they want to sign our copies. There's 2 printed copies, then you get
That change management or silliness issue definitely does exist out there. We got guys that, I don't want to see your tablet, don't want to talk about your tablet, give me a piece of paper. And so that's going to take some time to get over that hurdle. It's going to take changing some of those people out.
We still have about 9 or 10 more minutes. I'm going to get a question over here, but while I walk, maybe you could talk about the CPQ rule helping the driver have reduced clicks, which again is part of that process to make it faster for them.
Yeah. Okay, so because CPQ rules are really a godsend, right? Because in SAP, when we had it, they had to input every line item. They had to go add every line item, type it in, and hit enter. So with CPQ, what we've been able to do is if it's, for example, because the labor line always is on, so based on the start and stop time, it picks it up. But based on the type of job that's being done, the line items get populated, and based on the disposal that we've selected, if it's a basic owned disposal or if it's a third-party disposal, our line items automatically get populated. So we're looking at probably out of the 100 tickets, maybe about 80 that they don't have to touch at all, and maybe 20 plus or minus where they may have to go in, add more lines, but for the majority, 90% of the time, they don't have to touch their tickets. They just have to enter quantity, which the driver would do, quantity, and that's pretty much it.
And on the water logistics side, that's not as big a deal. When you get to the well servicing side, the CPQ is really going to be a big issue for us in terms of making that much more simple.
Yeah. And we heard about CPQ, you know, when we had our demos with Liquid Frameworks, but when we actually implemented is when we saw how cool it is and how much our staff love it, because they don't have to do much. You know, we just have to plan out and design those rules up front, and that's pretty much it.
Question regarding XML invoicing. A lot of your customers have XML requirements as far as master data you have to include before you ship them off to Oildex, Ariba, whatever. Are you handling that in the back end, or are you facilitating some of that master data within the front end as well?
So the master data internal to FieldFX and SAP, we're handling through iDocs and general data information flow. From an EDI standpoint, we're handling that. We use Malto as our EDI provider. And so all of that information goes out based on the hub and the customer in terms of the data format that they want to see that in. So that keeps it pretty simple.
But they're doing the back end, right?
Correct. The Malto takes care of all of that for us.
Yeah.
So it's made that very, very easy. We outsourced that probably 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you wrote it out December 2016. I was curious how long it took to develop the system, and then also maybe what processes were involved.
I would say we're probably still developing. And really at this point, it's kind of ease of use, things to enhance our work processes that we have in place. But we probably took 6-7 months to get the system where we thought it needed to be before we rolled it out. At that same time, as Uma had talked about, we were really focused on the data integration between SAP and FieldFX. And so those two things took a little bit of time. So we probably started in early 16.
Yeah.
And our first rollout was December-ish of 16. So 8-9 months before we felt we were ready to push it out to end users. And then after that first rollout, we've probably put another 6-7 months of development into ease of use, things like this mass ticket approval to transition, status transition screens, things like that. They just make it easier to use because, you know, we talked about we've pushed over 140,000 work tickets through this thing, and each one of those has to change statuses along that work process. And to do that without the tools that we've got built currently, we never would have got there.
And was this just for water hauling, or did you use it on any other lines?
Right now, we are strictly water hauling, and we're looking to move into the well services segment probably this summer. And so our goal is to get all of our business on FieldFX.
Thank you.
From a dispatch perspective, the water logistics business is a little bit easier than the oil field service business. How is there functionality to pair, I guess, multiple employees and ancillary equipment that's going to go out on a well servicing job when using the dispatch function?
Well, we haven't got there yet, and so we're kind of doing the analysis on what is it we actually need from the well services perspective. But those things are all doable with the tool. It's just a matter of how we roll that out. And do we dispatch it, or do these guys just punch in their tickets from a tablet or a laptop in the field? So the well services is a lot lower volume. And so we haven't really decided how we're going to roll that out yet. So we're going to probably implement that, get it out to a couple of yards, and to kind of shake it out from there. So don't have a real answer for you on that one.
Hey, Uma, can you speak to them a little bit about what we did with as far as the EDI and the EDI information that they fill out inside of FieldFX to help with the integration over to EDI?
Okay, sure. So on the EDI piece, so of course, you know, as we know, customers who are on EDI need specific fields filled in. So in SAP, we had a way we were managing it, but when we moved to FX, that was a gap we had to fill. So right now, if it's an EDI customer, because based on the integration, we have a flag in SAP that says it's an EDI customer, so that moves to FX. And if it's an EDI customer and they haven't put in information, there's a huge red thing that says EDI customer. So the staff cannot miss that. They have to put in information, and they can't move forward, right? They can't create a work order based on that. So yes, initially they were like, well, we have to be able to move forward, but it stops them from, our invoices get rejected. So right now, up front, we're able to correct the problem, and so our downstream process is pretty simple based on that.
Got about 1 or 2 more minutes.
Hey, thanks, guys. I have one question about on the mobility side. So I understand that you're using tablets to address that. I'm curious, did you guys explore utilizing your IVMS or telematics solutions that are already in the trucks there, and maybe trying to foster a partnership between Liquid Frameworks and your provider on that?
We did not. I mean, we use mixed telematics. It's been received, and so it hadn't been the best implementation, if you will. The reason for that, right, is because it wasn't part of IT. It was an operational rollout, and it is kind of floundered, I guess, if you will. So it's not used consistently across the company, and so we didn't really feel that we could tap into that with any type of consistency to move that forward. So we went with the tablets primarily for that reason.
Yeah, but in our yards, so some yards who are heavy on mix have 2 monitors, one for mix and one for dispatch. So they dispatch the truck, but then with the GPS, they can see where the truck is at. So they utilize it that way, but we haven't done a formal integration.
And for our last question.
Marcel Herbst, Technique FMC. Could you speak to the offline connectivity challenges that you might have possibly had, specifically with working outside of your ERP, or I'm sorry, working within your ERP outside of your network or VPN?
So we've been pretty lucky. We've got 2 locations in Loco Hills and I think San Angelo, where we have really no cellular connectivity whatsoever. And so we still are using paper in those particular yards. But the connectivity, we haven't had a significant issue with. We're using Verizon and AT&T from a cellular perspective. If they are out of range, they'll use the radios in terms of getting them jobs. So we're not going to miss a job because of connectivity. And so they get that out the old-fashioned way, and then they'll get that ticket in through the mobile device back into the system. From an SAP standpoint, those things are highly, highly integrated. And so as soon as that ticket comes down, it gets audited and reviewed and approved, it flows right into SAP. That master data flows out to FieldFX on a 5, 10, 15 minute type of scenario. So as soon as that master data gets changed, I got a new customer, I got a new employee, I got a new truck, it gets moved up to SAP basically within minutes. And so it's available for FieldFX to be utilized. So the connectivity, haven't really had an issue with the back office ERP, and it's a very light issue out in the field at this point.